what's your plan, or like what's your approach been to like educate the industry about, adopting tools like Intaba?
So we're
Mm.
working really hard to get more and more what I'd call sort of self-service bottoms up as an organization. Like we really want small and up and coming companies to be able to adopt it without having to go and do like hiring a consultant to go and teach them the cultural pieces. So this is it's really a UX problem throughout the product. It's not about putting you through a training course. It's about making each page that you hit, each screen that you encounter informative so you can learn as you go, right? Let's file incidents always. How do we make that more accessible? Where do we put it in Slack? How do we make the bot work? How do we encourage it more often? How do we give you more exposure to the ones that have been filed? How do we give you an idea of how often they get filed so you don't feel like you're running outside of the norm? Like that's the core stuff that the product has to work pretty hard at. And that we've been iterating on pretty aggressively, and we continue to. The other parts of it are, there's more and more personification, I think, of the product that's happening in the beginning, right? The tool was very tool-like, right? It's like, here's your tool, it disappears and you use it. And in incident response, you sort of at a company like a Facebook, you'll have or Dropbox, you'll have either like an IMOC, an incident manager on call, you'll have an incident commander, and it tends to be a trained role, right? Like you went through formal training to learn this stuff, and you place them in every incident, regardless of if it's their problem, right? If nothing else, to make sure everyone's acting correctly, right? You can help adjust sev levels, you can help move things around. We used to call this the responsible adult in the room. I really do start to feel like the future is almost the elimination of that role, right? Like the tool should take on that role of helping you understand, how do I file? When do I file? What do I file? Where do I file? When do I close it? Et cetera, et cetera. Because otherwise, just like you said, with how do you teach people, otherwise you have to train. And if the barrier to the tool is a training class, it's just ends up being this thing that only large organizations will ever get to really adopt. And so I think that that's really what will make that work for every company. Is, it's partially on us from a feature UX standpoint to do it, but it's also just, it's tool crafting and it's messaging, everything from marketing page out to like how you talk about your own incidents and product to these conversations we're having right now. I hope that the entire tech world is like adopting this cultural feeling of we ought to be doing incident management, right? Like that's kind of the beginning. And then you kind of propagate forward into the tool and beyond. So, to me, these things are all product problems, which is why we build a product in this space. Because that's when I think about iteration, I think less about, how do I go and own everything your SRE team does, right? Which is like a very natural way to sort of think about a product like this. And instead, I like to think about it from the standpoint of, how do we make your marketing person participate in incidents? Because if I can get your marketing person who's never even heard of incident management to do this, then a small company of engineers who maybe also haven't practiced it in the past can also adopt it overnight. So it's really about who uses it. And I reference Asana a lot because I'm really amazed by that product in general. But I think it's similar in that the rest of the world had to-do lists and we had like project management, and there's that middle ground. And the only way you do that is by building a really beautiful product that helps people understand. I think incident management's the same way. Marketing teams already have, where they run to when there's a fire, but they don't actually have a tool to go and make this work consistently.
Mm-hmm.